Rematch of last year's national championship game. Right now, Washington's favored -2.5, and you can get Michigan on the money line +115 to +120.
How surprised are you that Washington is favored?
I am a little bit surprised. I am. I thought this line would be more -2.5, -3 Michigan, and force people to say, oh, if I want them, if I want to take the money line, it's like -135, -140. So I am a little bit surprised. But I went back and rewatched that Washington-Rutgers game. What a weird game, an odd game. I mean, Washington threw for over 300 yards, which is great to see Will Rogers back in good form. Had some injuries at Mississippi State, dealt with the passing of Mike Leach, transfers to Washington. Boys, you don't almost be the all-time SEC.
Was it red zone?
Yeah, it was the red zone. He threw for over 300 yards, and Washington ran for over 200 yards on this Rutgers team, and they scored 2 touchdowns.
Sounds
they missed
like
3 field goals, 2 fourth-down conversions they didn't get, 1 on the 1-yard line, had a block kick that they had against Rutgers, called back that Rutgers scores a touchdown. Just really weird stuff. So I think Washington's going to be able to move the football against Michigan. The question is, when the red zone constricts you, will they be able to score touchdowns? Because I do think Michigan is fairly good in the red zone when they're not committing penalties. That's the biggest question for me. And then for Michigan on offense, like when you're having to deal with this 3-headed monster of Kalel Mullings, Donovan Edwards, and Alex Orji for 60 minutes, that's a problem. You thought Rutgers was running the football on you? Get ready to deal with this for 4 straight quarters. So I'm a little bit surprised to see Washington's favored, even though I'm not surprised that the game is within a field goal.
I think this is one of the best dog bets on the board. I would probably, I know we're going to get into bets, I would grab this now while Michigan is not. I think this line's going to move to either a pick'em or Michigan -1. And I know teams are different each week, right? That's the hardest thing about coaching is trying to get that consistency week in and week out. And Washington is an incredible environment, right? Their home field advantage, it's amazing out there. And I have not been on the right side of predicting when I've gone against Washington in the past, really picking Oregon over them. And they put a hype film out that emphasized that. I appreciate that, guys. That was funny. That's what I was talking with Nick Sheridan about when we were down at the Senior Bowl. We were laughing about it. But Michael Penix Jr. isn't out there, right? Rome Odunze, Polk, McMillan, that offensive line that was incredible last year, it isn't out there. And I don't think the defense is the same, even though they've been a little bit better than what I thought they were going to be. I really like Michigan in this game because if you struggle once that 12th defender comes into play, which is the red zone, right? I actually think Minnesota coming back on Michigan the way they did last week was the worst thing that could have happened for Washington. If it was a blowout game and Michigan, was really confident, maybe overconfident coming into this game, I think mentally I would feel better. But this just seems to me to be one of those games when we saw Will Rogers at Mississippi State, as good as he is, he will put the ball in harm's way. And I think Michigan can stop the run on this Washington team and make them one-dimensional, which they can win with one dimension with Will. But I think Michigan, man, I really like Michigan 24-13 or 24-16 in this game. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly. It's not, what you would think of when you think of Washington. But if you struggle to consistently put the ball in that rectangle with the paint in it against a Rutgers team that we got a lot of respect for.
Oh, yeah.
They're good on defense, right? And that's no knock at Rutgers. I think Michigan, after last week and giving up what they gave up, that defense is going to come out really hungry. I think this is one of the best dog bets on the board.
So, Blaine, what do you think? I mean, this is a Michigan team that has bounced back really well from that loss against Texas, but they are getting outplayed in the second half and outcoached in some areas in the second half of games, which is different than what we've seen the last 3 years with Michigan.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that fourth quarter collapse this week that we saw in Michigan last week. One thing I want to point out, if you go back to the Rutgers of Washington game, as good as Rutgers defense is, you have to give kudos to Washington. How many sacks did Rutgers have? 0.
Yeah.
Right? That's not going to happen again in this game. Whatever Rutgers is on defense, Michigan is that times 2. I like Michigan in this game. It's hard to go back-to-back weeks, physical, ground, run down your throat football teams, and that's what Washington is going to walk into. This is going to be a game, which most Michigan games are, is let's play a game of how tough you are. How tough can you be
find out early.
for 4 quarters, right? Alex Orji threw it 18 times last week. I don't want that.
That's way too.
I don't want that. I don't want anything more than 10. This is going to be a low-scoring game. If I bet anything in this game, I like the under at 41.5. I don't think that's a crazy bet. That's what I'm most comfortable with. But right now, if you're Washington, you got to force Alex Orji to make mistakes. When he does throw it, you have to make him make those mistakes. Will Rogers, great piece, but Rutgers never touched Will Rogers. They never got to him, right? Never made him uncomfortable. What is Michigan known for doing? Go ask Miller Moss from USC. That kid probably was in a church the next 24 hours praying after what happened. So this is going to be a great football game, but I think Michigan's defense will be the difference in this game.
One comment on Orji real quick. He had the real bad interception that was to Colston Loveland, even though Donovan Edwards was wide open on the rail route. That was a bad interception, and I get it. We can talk about it. But he threw some balls. He threw a couple basic routes in there where I was like, my goodness, if you can just throw it that well, combined with what you're already doing, mostly being one-dimensional, Michigan can be a really good football team, because early in his career, we were like, okay, this is too inept to be able to even be the starting quarterback. He threw a couple really good balls that surprised me. You can't turn the football over, because that's why you're in there instead of Davis Warren.
Without a doubt. And you know, Rutgers is so well coached. And I know they gave up some yards, but they held up in the red zone. But Michigan has better athletes overall. Talking about the sacks, right, and making plays. Not that Rutgers doesn't have good athletes, but Michigan has some really elite level athletes, especially on that defensive line, that can get back, not just stop the run, not just two gap, but Wink Martindale can't overthink this now. Like, if you're dominating them, you don't have to come up with these exotic blitz. You don't have to turn into the Joker, right? You just need to be Bruce Wayne, man. Just, hey, here's what we got. We're rich, be rich. I don't have to invent other ways to get rich. Just be rich on defense. Don't do too much. Don't over blitz. Hey, what's up, YouTube? Appreciate you guys being here. As usual, like you hear from anybody that's ever had a YouTube channel, if you get a chance, hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on, and like the videos and comment, whether you agree or disagree. And I hope it's a little bit of both. We appreciate you being here.